Unscripted.
So I understand there's going to be some hesitation despite the fact of the name of the title in this video, and people are going to be like, oh man, Crapgamer's switching sides, he's going back to Xbox, etc. Like, I never stopped playing Xbox. Like, that's neither here nor there. I want Xbox to have great games. This has nothing to do with Xbox. Let's get that out of the way. No more speaking of Xbox in this video. What I want to talk about is the reasons why people are freaking out are a little bit overblown, okay? Let's just be real. Regardless of what happened with Jason Schreier and his scathing report of PlayStation and the state of PlayStation, I think we have to keep things kind of in perspective. This guy lives and breathes off of this type of interaction, right? He doesn't go and chase down people when they're doing good things. Why he hasn't done a big scathing thing like this on 343 Industries, I'll never know, right? Because it seems like they're rife with all kinds of problems. But instead, he focuses on Sony. And now a lot of people took what he said about Sony to be a very negative thing, okay? Let's just be real about it. Less chances, less creative freedom, that sounds like really bad things. And it can be. It can be. For sure, it can be. But we have to also look at the other things that were said and the positive things, right? Like, it's really hard to get too down on what Sony is doing when you look at what they have coming and what they've already announced, right? Like, I think that that's something that is getting kind of lost in translation a little bit, you know? Like, as far as I can tell, Sony are focusing on big games, which I like. I mean, obviously, they're still going to do the smaller stuff, too. Hence why we're getting, like Kenna, Bridge of Spirits. They still have those kind of relationships going. So I think that we're going to continue to see that stuff. So is it time for the average PlayStation gamer to just give it up and maybe go to Xbox, or, because Xbox is so pro-consumer and consumer-friendly? I just honestly don't see that. Like, if you've been enjoying PlayStation, why wouldn't you continue to enjoy PlayStation? Now, of course, this is going to get called damage control, and, I understand that. But at the end of the day, Sony's going to do what's right for them as a business. And, sometimes that does things that maybe doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? So a lot of people were very upset when Sony closed down Japan studio. What they actually did was restructure that studio and, and made them a little bit smaller. And we also have to keep in mind that things are changing, times are changing. Where, like, in Japan, that studio would take risks and take risks and be able to do that, and not be able to have like a hit here in the States or whatever. Sony didn't really want to see it that way. They wanted something that was going to be sort of a hit here and there, and it didn't work out that way, so they restructured. Astrobot tends to be a pretty popular thing, so they're going to keep probably doing those type of games and maybe some VR and stuff like that. Maybe assist with some of the other games, because they did assist with like Bloodborne and things like that. Now, the one thing that I think that really bothered me the most about the report was Ben Studios. Okay, Ben Studios did Days Gone. That was their first AAA console game in over 20 years. I mean, the last being Siphon Filter. And I thought they did a really good job with it. Now, do you totally believe what Jason Schreier is saying? I think that's another point to kind of contend with. Like, why is Sony going to port Days Gone to PC if that's a dead IP? I mean, you get why they did Horizon Zero Dawn, because you're coming out with a sequel, and you possibly want people to maybe buy in on PlayStation 5 for the sequel. But why would you port Days Gone if it's a dead game to begin with? Like, I don't understand the thought process behind that. But so Days Gone comes out. People like me thought that they were doing Days Gone 2. There was articles saying that they were hiring for their next big AAA, etc. And, that was right afterwards. So there was all kinds of hints. They left the door open for a Days Gone 2. And, at the end of the day, if we didn't get that, so if you think about it, if it would have taken 4 years to do a Days Gone 2, in 2 years from now, we would have had a Days Gone 2 on PS5. Instead, what has Sony been doing for the last 2 years? They got split into two teams. One team was helping to make Factions, the multiplayer game, to The Last of Us, and the other team was assisting Naughty Dog in making The Last of Us remake for the PS5. Now, they didn't want to get kind of known as this team that was doing, to get kind of absorbed into Naughty Dog or whatever, right? Like they didn't really, they didn't really want to get into that. They didn't want to get absorbed and lose their identity. Unfortunately, that meant that they had to kind of pull back from doing what they were doing, and now Naughty Dog is like fully in charge of doing their own stuff. And while it is bad that we aren't getting a Days Gone 2, supposedly what they're doing right now is making a brand new IP, a AAA IP. So it's hard to really kind of feel totally bad for what is going on at Sony, because just for instance, basically what's going on, and I'm going to kind of run this down. So people want to think it's doom and gloom for PlayStation right now, but let's take a look at what we found out from this article. There's a brand new Uncharted game coming out, made by Naughty Dog, supervised by Naughty Dog. We're getting Factions multiplayer, like its own game from Naughty Dog. We're getting God of War Ragnarok. We're getting Returnal. We're getting Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. We're getting Ghost of Tsushima 2, which was already confirmed via LinkedIn. We're getting Horizon Forbidden West. We're getting Gran Turismo 7. Sony Bend is making their new IP. Sony Santa Monica is working on a new IP in addition to God of War Ragnarok. There's a new Naughty Dog IP. There's the Last of Us remake. They also have what's been heavily rumored, or I guess it kind of leaked out, that Gran Turismo is also going to be doing an open world game. So there is that as well. They're going to be doing like a sort of like a Horizon type game. So they're going to be doing 2 new racing games. There's also Jade Raymond's new exclusive that's going to be on the PlayStation 5. We also have a situation with the timed exclusives that they have. Forspoken, a 2-year timed exclusive. Final Fantasy 16, at least a year timed exclusive. Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo, both at least year timed exclusives. And that's just some of the stuff that we've heard about. Obviously there's probably a lot more going into this than what we even know about. But yeah, this is fantastic news. This is no reason to be doom and gloom about PlayStation. They're in a really good spot. I understand that the lack of announcements and stuff like that, and what's looked at as this constant bad news, isn't a great thing. And I totally get that. I totally understand that. I do think that Sony should probably speak up. But the games are still coming. Right? Like, we're still getting all these games. They're still heavily investing in PlayStation. They're investing in, the big bangers that, that we all love. And, they're also investing in, like, the third-party stuff, the second-party deals. They got so much going on that it's really kind of hard to imagine how good things are going to be here in the next couple of years, right? Like, are we going to get less, probably, like, the smaller stuff? That's quite possible. But it's hard to believe that that's totally the case when we're getting like Returnal and stuff like that at the end of this month. So, again, The Last of Us, that prints money. The fact that we're getting a new Uncharted game blows my mind. Like, I'm very excited about that. Factions multiplayer, excited by that. God of War, Ratchet and Clank, a sequel to Ghost of Tsushima. Those are all things that really excite me and get me amped up as a gamer, because I'm super excited by the prospect of that stuff. Now, the thing is, what does that mean for the future of PlayStation? It means that they're just taking more of the safe bets. And, we'll have to see how that works out. Is that going to be something that really works out well for them long term? I think that's going to be the thing that we have to pay more attention to than not. So hopefully we do continue to see them take some chances. Like, I think in particular with the new IP. But I think the success of something like Ghost of Tsushima means that, they can still take some risks. But, again, we're going to get a sequel to that. And we're also going to get a Spider-Man sequel, like a full-on sequel to the 2018 game. That game sold 20 million copies. Miles Morales, over 5 million copies. Probably more than that by now. But we're definitely going to see a sequel there. We could see Resistance remakes, because that falls in line with what Sony's looking to do. This stuff all makes sense. Do I believe everything that David Schreier said? No. Some of that stuff is blown out of proportion. I can remember him really trying to come down hard on Naughty Dog, and Naughty Dog was out there basically, a few people were working 45-hour work weeks. Don't bust me up. I know I've mentioned that before, but it's like he looks for this negative stuff. but it's not always as bad as this. Like Sony, it just seems so bad right now because they're so quiet, but we're still in the middle of a pandemic. Once they start announcing these new games and showing off these games, people are going to forget all about the other stuff. And, you know, even if you don't agree with everything that's going on with Sony, it's hard to argue with the lineup that I presented with you today. There's no reason to just up and switch or get angry. If it were 100% true that they weren't taking risks, they sure as hell wouldn't do a PlayStation VR 2, which we know they're doing. So, you know, I'm just saying, keep things in perspective. There's no need to freak out, and let's just all enjoy the games. Let me know what you think. Rack 'em up. Game on, my friends. Game on. Crap Gamer, out.
Unscripted.